something I missed the last time. Hopefully more people are going to join. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. So we're happy you're tuning in. And our special guest, Adam C. Hall, is entering, I think, 8:10 tonight to join us on the special edition. And hopefully Adam will inspire you and me and Maya, whatever, with his special story he encountered. So feel more than welcome. Before we're gonna start, I would like to give you, Maya, the opportunity for the people who weren't there the first time to give you a small introduction from yourself, and before we continue with this beautiful gathering.
Indeed. Hello, everyone. I hope that you are sitting there or standing or wherever you are alive and that you are sentient in this moment. We're so happy to have you here. All of us are initially intended to be somewhere else. So to have this space and time that we committed to today is really beautiful in this unitive consciousness that we will be discussing. As Bob said, my name is Mayo. I like to go by Mayo, but my name is Carlos Mario Perlaza. And I have been a professor of human communication for the last 10 years. And in those 10 years, I have learned the secret, the sauce of what it means to transmit our words and the energy that is encapsulated behind those words. In many ways, words are empty without the other human being. So we create the definition, and the definition should not be based on our cognitive abilities, but what we feel in our essence as human beings. So today, I welcome you again here in this beautiful gathering, our second edition. Today with Boss and Adam, we will discuss topics of consciousness, of intuition, of the genius within us. So sit tight, enjoy the ride, and if you have any questions, please let us know. I'm sure Boss will introduce the feature for us to have our interactive communication today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mayo. And I see our special guest, Adam, is already arrived. It's still in the morning, Santa Barbara. Happy you join us. We're gonna, of course, introduce you in 10 to 15 minutes. And we have this beautiful encounter and dialogue with you, Adam. My name is Bas. Bas de Kok is my name. I was born in the Netherlands and created, together with my wife, Melanie Jokoso, in which we create and also share our wisdoms to patients and doctors in a kind of retreat settings to spread the consciousness and the effect of consciousness. So tonight, we're gonna have a special gathering with Adam and his special story he encountered and his, I would say, his personal life we're gonna hear to inspire us from the inside. Before we're gonna do that, I would like to give more like a framework of these Wisdom Keepers gatherings, because the last time people asked me, okay, what's really the purpose of these Wisdom Keepers gatherings? So I would like to give a short introduction and overview, and then we have attunement or a meditation to settle and to just to arrive with where you are now and to feel your own system, but also where you're coming from. So this Wisdom Keepers gatherings is more or less, it's an open and safe space where we can communicate as a community, as we all are interconnected, and have a dialogue on several topics, but especially on the topic of that we are all interconnected and we're all one. We're going to take actions and to share our wisdoms via ourselves, via this platform, also with the guests we invited. And the guests we invited with, I would say, a deep feeling. We are encountered with these guests. And of course, we don't know you, Adam, but we've read your work, we read who you are and what you encountered in life. So I would say, Adam, you're more than welcome to be here. So taking actions with love and compassion, that's one of the main purposes of these gatherings. And also learn skills and heart-opening practices to really remember who we are and to experience our own nature. So this is more or less an interactive platform, and also where we can learn from each other, but especially from our guests who are invited. We're going to start in a few minutes with an attunement, and I would like to prepare this attunement with you. In this, I would say there is some music involved. So if your speaker is very loud, be prepared that the music is for you, not loud encountering in your screen or in your living rooms. So I will guide this attunement with you, and we're all in this together. And we're going to start with the attunement in a few minutes. We would like also to look back to our special guest, Jude Curvin, in the first gathering, in which she shared the science of interconnection, where on a quantum-based physical level, she spread our knowledge about consciousness in particular. And we all as a group encountered the energy which was involved in the science, but also in the practice, that love is the most pragmatic way to share this consciousness directly in your own community or your own sense. So, and I promised you to also mention her book. She recently in October came out. It's the story of Gaia. And before we start the attunement, I also show you the book, so you have an idea of the book. And we would really like to recommend this book because it's filled with important information. During this whole gathering, we invite you, everything which comes up, emotions, feelings, thoughts, questions, write them down on a paper, or for you, what works. It's important that these feelings or these emotions can get out or have a embodiment, I would say. So feel invited. And during our gathering, we will use these thoughts, feelings, whatever comes up, to have a more interactive moment to also embody what the whole group is feeling. Hopefully, after we have a beautiful session with Adam, maybe there's an attunement from Adam. We didn't discuss this in front, but maybe we can have an attunement also together. So let's see what this gathering brings. At the end, we take some time for also your sharings and Q&A. So now I'm going to share the screen, and I would like to invite you, before we start the attunement, to also notice the book of Jude Curvin, The Story of Gaia, and to also watch, and I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger, to take a deep and connective look at this piece of artwork. And it doesn't matter what it directly brings up with you or what you encounter, but just let this picture entering your eyes, your brain, your heart, and entering your whole body. And I would like to invite you to close your eyes now, just in this trustful environment, to have this moment for yourself. This attunement, this embodiment of who you really are. What's the sense, what's the feeling you are? What do you feel on a deeper core inside your body? And if you have this deeper sense of yourself, maybe there is a feeling, a warm feeling, tingling. Maybe your whole skin resonates. If you have this sense of your deeper person who you really are, you can also attune to the people in this gathering tonight. Maybe you can see them in a circle, sitting next to each other around a beautiful fireplace. And feel united. Feel guided. Feel loved by everyone in this circle. And maybe you can feel also you're being supported somewhere at the back of you, somewhere in energy, where your father and mother, maybe brothers and sisters, uncles and aunties, but also your ancestral line is fully present with you in this meeting. Maybe you sense also with the other people in the circle, they're all guided by ancestors as well. Feel like this circle around the fire, the space, is filled up with all our ancestral legacy. Feel where we all coming from. Feel where we all are guided from. Feel what they created for you, for the whole group, for the whole unity. And stay in this circle and listen to the words and listen behind and beyond.
Nothing lasts forever. No one lives forever. The flower that fades and dies. Winter passes and spring comes. Embrace the cycle of life that is the greatest love. Go beyond fear. Go beyond fear. Beyond fear takes you into the place where love grows. When you refuse to follow the impulses of fear, anger, and revenge. Beyond means to feel yourself. Start every day singing like the birds. Singing takes you beyond, 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 beyond. We need a repeated discipline, a genuine training to let go our old habits of mind and to find and sustain a new way of seeing. Go beyond the rights and the wrongs. Prayer clears the head and brings back peace to the soul. Go beyond to feel the oneness of the unity. Sing. Singing takes you beyond, 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 beyond. We are all the same, all the same, looking to find our way back to the source, to the one, to the only one. Go beyond revenge. The greatest moment in our lives is when we allow us to teach each other. Go beyond to feel the oneness of the unity. Singing. Singing takes you beyond. 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 Take the journey. Take the journey inside of you to become quiet, to hear the beyond, to become patient, to receive the beyond, to become open, to invite the beyond, and be grateful. Be grateful to allow the beyond. Be in the present moment to live in the beyond. Start every day singing like the birds. Singing takes you beyond, beyond, beyond. What does love have to do with it? Love grows when you trust. When you trust, love heals and renews. Love inspires and empowers us to do great things and makes us a better person to love. Love makes us feel safe and brings us closer to God. When you go beyond, is where you find true love. Keep singing. Singing takes you beyond. 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 Beyond.
Take these words deep in and breathe 3 times with these words. And put them in your hearts for the coming weeks and months. Take your own time to close your circle. Come back to your own body and system. Feel free to open your eyes in your own pace. I would like to introduce our special guest, Adam C. Hall. I was wondering what the C stands for, but we'll hear from Adam ourselves. Adam, we're so grateful you could participate. It's still morning where you are now, and you came from a other show or another program, and we're so happy you contribute with your heart to this Wisdom Keepers gatherings. So thank you for that from the beginning. Adam, you're a father of 3 daughters. You're living in Santa Barbara, California. And you're an author of several books, of which the last book, The Divine Genius and the Learning Curve, is the last one. And we're going to refer, and hopefully we're going to hear more about this beautiful book. You're a member of the evolutionary members or the evolutionary leaders, as well with I would say the wisdom keepers of this this planet, with scientists, with spiritual leaders, and etc. And also Jude Gervin is in this leader circle as well. And you're a founding steward of the Earthkeeper Alliance to inspire every human to create a new world where we live in harmony with Mother Earth. So it's amazing what you do, but you came from another era, another archetype, I would say, and that's I think so special. like there is a moment of transformation. And you were a founder of 3 successful real estate development companies before personal and professional devastation hit you and forced you to re-evaluate everything in life. And then April 2012 was a remarkable moment. I thought it was in the 11th of April, as you mentioned in your book. You encountered a transformational lucid dream during a meditation. And I'm not gonna speak about it because this is what you encountered and we like to hear more about it. But there are 13 wisdom teachings came to you. And the first thing I already stopped and my heart almost cried was forgiveness. Such an easy thing, but something very difficult for us as humans with an ego-centered brain. So I would like to give you the word and to first just attune from your background, where you came from, and yeah, what you encountered with the wisdom teachings you encountered. Thank you for being here, Adam.
Well, thank you, and I'm honored to be here with all of you. Yes, I'm here in the beautiful Santa Barbara, living in this amazing garden. And it's so wonderful to wake up in the morning and see the beauty of nature and to feel into the gratitude and to come to be with all of you today. I'm deeply grateful to share with you and to hear from you and to explore with you. These are the most important moments, is when we can come together to have these discussions, to be raw and real with these discussions. And I just love it, and to celebrate. And so thank you for having me. I'm honored, in the wisdom keeping community that you're cultivating, you all are cultivating, is of course never been more important than ever. You know, having come from a lineage of shaman and wisdom keepers and earth keepers and day keepers. You know, the wisdom keepers are the ones that, as with the others, but are ultimately fulfilling a very key place of expression of light and of wisdom, of course, in the heart, you know, and of course, in the deepest part of our own soul. So thank you so much for having me here. And of course, we're in this journey. And I recently was at the Earth Keeper Summit. My dear friends Alberto Vialdo, Marcelo Lobos, and many other shamanic teachers, wisdom keepers, earth keepers. And you know, there was a very lively discussion around how to come forth with this year's summit. And it was really about how we come together to engage and to really activate our journeys. And it wasn't so long ago, although about 18 years ago, that I really began to wonder that, have I left or missed something very critical out of my life's journey? And it was very evident, even though it may be paradoxical, that I was at the pinnacle of this very successful life and business and family and all those accoutrements that come with those things. And yet there was something missing. You know, I spent much of my sunrises driving to work in Los Angeles and taking Tums on the way and acids. Evenings ended up drinking margaritas, too many of them. So the journey was ultimately one of the quest of chasing and seeking that which I've since discovered through my research into Jungian psychology and quantum physics and, you know, many other teachings and modalities, is that endless seeking and that endless search for what would fill my life. I had everything that I thought that would fill it, but no, the lonely man remained.
Mm-hmm.
And hence the quest begins. And we're all in this journey together, and wherever you are, the quest is that journey. And here we are today, the seeking journey. It's time to end that, because we all are alive in our life, in our wisdom, in our genius, in our gifts, and our talents. And this planet is calling for us. Many people are calling for each of you to come forth with what you have and what has been given. And that journey for me really thrust me into the deeper jungles and mountains, and primarily in Peru and in South America, and into a deep study into what we refer to in the shamanic world as the underworld, the inner world of our own subconscious or unconscious realms, and to engage with the magic and the medicine that's available for those that are on that path. There are so many beautiful paths. But this is the path that I knew that I must take after exploring many paths, because ultimately the shamanic path, at least in the lineage that I'm within me, it's alive within me, I should say, is one of fire. So it's quantum. It's not messing around. It's quantum. It's immediate. And it's all consuming. And it necessitated that I put everything up on the table, so to speak. And the journey with my children, and if you can believe it, I have 7 grandchildren now as well, has been an extraordinary one, because they are my teachers. They carry wisdom far beyond my years in their own way, because they bring forth the magic and the innocence of my life. And that kept me moving into the next part of my journey, into that tradition of how to leap into the quantum nature of our being. How can a mere mortal humanness leap into the infinite, into that place which is eternal? And the very first question in my latest book, Divine Genius, is how to get out of this lifetime alive. That's the question that all shamans ask. How do you get out of this lifetime alive? So that manuscript is very much about how to do that and how I did that. And I look forward to talking to all of you today about this idea of getting out of this lifetime alive, about navigating these tremendous times of earth changes. The greatest crisis happening, as I see it at the moment, is not simply the planetary crisis, but the crisis of our humanity. The very nature of our own mindset and where we are is having a deeply profound effect. It's really the hidden pandemic, the secret pandemic. There's much to explore today, and there's much to celebrate today with you. Thank you for allowing me to ramble and stumble through these first few minutes with you. And let's see where we want to go, because I feel very much that I'm in the presence of so much light and love here with all of you, that I'm wide open. I'm wide open to share and love with all of you and celebrate with you.
Yeah, before I give the microphone to Maya as well, my co-host and my companion in these wisdom gatherings, also with Melanie. She's at the back, or I would say she's the organizer of everything that organizes well. So I would like to mention her as well. Before I give the microphone to Maya as well, I would like to tune in with you to what you said, because it's very important. In a few sentences, you really hit, for me, the core. Because we as children are born with this wisdom, as you said, and we lose it when our ego brain is filled up with patterns, filled up with all narratives which if you can break them down, it's we're not good enough, we're not okay as it is at this moment. And during these preparation for the Wisdom Keepers, but also in the first gathering, Jude Curvin, I sense that a lot of people, they really want to feel or to look through the lens of interconnection, but it's so blocked in our system that we look through a lens of separation. And as you mentioned, and also I read in your book, like, can you get out of lifetime alive? It was so much changing. So I was wondering, also with the Jungian backgrounds in which we are informed by our dreams, already get signs like we are interconnected. There are signs we have to change our lifestyle, our mind style. So I was wondering, in this quest, were you already informed by dreams before you encountered this you call them him the spirit or the man who informed you about the wisdoms? Were you already informed, and was there an opening to listen to that, or so how did you encounter this yeah?
Well, there's a few things that you shared there, and I'll touch upon a couple of them because they're very important. But the latter piece, in terms of attunement, how are we attuning to inner being? How are we listening to the divine that comes through us? How do we come into a place of resonance with a higher frequency, a higher field that is vibrating through in our inner being, is our connection to the whole, connection to the quantum field, to be in the wave, to be in the particle, to be in the oneness. We're hearing so much these days about unity consciousness and oneness, and it's in experiencing, many of us are experiencing this in our life, is, you know, the next evolution of our humanity, the next evolution of our own beingness as humans. And of course, the ancient ones, you know, predicted and spoke of this time in many ways that were culminated in 2012 as to the emergence of the new human, of the light human. So there's this greater context of, you know, human evolution and conscious evolution of where we're all going. But to bring it really down to the personal journey is what's really essential, because ultimately, you know, the seeking in the endless, you know, the world is so full of noise and, you know, all kinds of self-help and personal development and, you know, beautiful scientists and a lot of great things going on. But ultimately, how is it that we can get anchored into our own sense of being? And, you know, the journey that I share with you, that was, you know, been part of this greater arc of my own personal evolution in the divine genius, was one of attuning to a field through deep meditation, through theta processes that took me into other realms. And the shaman is a practitioner of navigating and toggling between both the physical, the world of form, and the infinite world of the formless, and mediating a journey of healing, mediating a presence of love. And of course, there's also the energy that can be not as loving and dark as well. But ultimately, the mediation between those two dynamics is one that I begin to engage and study in knowing that that journey was a journey into the deepest rivers of my own being, of my own sense of divine ground. And I subscribe to a sensibility that in the presence of this conversation today, and in the presence of the fires that we sit by in the places that we are in our lives, that we are being held and guided. And the ancient ones and the wisdom keepers and earth keepers are very present today in all of our lives. And that they are both in the physical form and as well as in the non-physical form. So in my journey to attunement into inner being, I begin deep practices of attuning to those, what I would call guides. I also refer to them as allies. And each of us, I sense, has these guides and these allies in this world and in other transcendent worlds. And that attunement process it's incumbent upon us in free will. So the journey for me was to take the initiative and have the clear intention of my free will in separation, in form, to come into a place of unity, of oneness, where I can engage in transcendent dimensions. Some call this lucid dreaming, some call it deep meditation. Meditation is not exactly the right sensibility of it, because ultimately it's the journey into this journey to meet this particular guide that I share in the Divine Genius. That journey was the initial phase of that, is a meditative journey. But ultimately, to drop off into a transcendent field, there was more to it. And that journey to come into that presence was a process that I found that led me into, essentially, if you had a toggle and you could toggle between the world of form and the physical world and the non-physical world, it was essentially a tuning of, first and foremost, my brain waves, and moving into the highest states of brain frequencies and wavelengths, but ultimately surrender and release into a transcendent space. So hence the journey into other dimensions and connecting with the ancient wisdom keepers is a process. It's available to all of us. And you mentioned in the first part of your question and comments, as we were speaking of, what are the conditions that help us get into that place? Of course, we can get into the meditative states. We can be in our meditative rooms. We can do a lot of things to create the conditions for it. Ultimately, the great wisdom keepers of our youth, I think, offer us a secret into this. And I did an interview recently with a beautiful human being named Lynn Twist. Lynn is the founder of the Pachamama Alliance and a real sister to us all. And she shared a little story that, her mentor, Buckminster Fuller, would come over and have dinner, but inevitably Bucky never had dinner with Lynn and her husband. He was always over having dinner with the children. And she asked him one time, "But Bucky, why are you over there? We want you over here. Come on." He says, "I'm sitting over here because your children are my elders." And therein lies a real place of how to come back to the innocence and the purity of a mind and a heart of a child that's simply receiving the magic of life and the curiosity of life. And we all have this. This is available to us all. And of course, at some point in time, we separated away from the joy and innocence and magic of the child. So herein lies the place of coming into these deeper states, these deeper places of transcendent, to do so like the magical child. So hopefully that adds a little color to journey and the connections into these transcendent fields and merging through these transcendent places of separation into which is really our natural state of wholeness, of unity, of oneness, and to shift away from that old structure of mind into genius mind, as I refer to it as.
Mhm.
It's quite extraordinary, and it wasn't meant always with the purity of love, because I was still carrying the unwieldy nature of fear that exists within the separate mind, within this idea, this thought of ego. And it took a bit of self-love, and that's an understatement, and deeper inner work of sadness and transcendent healing work to be able to surrender to the infinite and the place of our indelible nature as light and love.
Yeah. I won't give the microphone to Mayo, because I'm really sense that from my background as a trainee in transpersonal psychology and psychedelic therapy trained by Stanislav Grof, you see now a renaissance in the psychedelic world, and people like especially the youngsters searching for something like an entrance to this unity or this divine, and also encountering these dark and traumatic history also from this life or from past lives. So you have this beautiful metaphor, this sword, in which also from the Jungian side, we have to encounter sometimes the dark places before we can enter the light or the divine. Can you shine a light on that for people? How can we encounter without losing our minds or losing the real connection with the divine from the darker places?
Well, wonderful for that. Your very question is an affirmation of the grounded in realness of all of you that I'm looking at in this community, because it's a question that so many do not ask and do not explore for obvious reasons. You all are for real, and even asking the question, in my opinion, exploring that, because it's such an imperative of this time that we navigate into those deepest, darkest crevices of our journey. And again, it's the underworld, the navigation of the underworld in the shamanic traditions. And I've seen it time and time again with our teachers, seemingly our gurus, and they don't go there. They don't do it. And that just leads us often back to the square one or square two of being on the journey, instead of being thrust into the field, into the quantum field, and untethering ourselves from these places that seemingly are, well, they're unknown or terrifying. And it's not to be diminishing of people that have these experiences. Soul loss is very powerful and potent. And the journeys through our lives, should you believe in that and explore that, I have found to be, not one of us has not lived a life that has probably a good chunk of darkness in it. Yeah, I for one, and I wrote a lot about that in my first book called The Earth Keeper, Undeveloping the Future. So, I believe the journey into the dark spaces and the crevices of our place it is necessary. And I believe also, based on my personal outcomes to the darkness, that the rewards and what's on the other side is extraordinary. And I won't bore you with all the particulars of that, but I will say that the human condition, I believe, in the zeitgeist existing now within the global human culture, is one even primarily in Western culture, in the Western world, but also now, basically proliferating in Eastern traditions, is one of the lonely being, the lonely human. It's extraordinarily lonely to be separate. I found that. And if we think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one of the things that's not so obvious there, but it should be, is that the presence of how we gather together in community. How do we find communion of souls? And it's just an extraordinary moment in human history for a lot of different reasons, but for this one in particular, which I'm emphasizing, and that's the journey that invites us in the Earth School to get back into that place. And that's the place that I have gone through and healing, and it's a journey. And it's extraordinary. So it's great to be sharing that. Thank you for that great question. I believe it's an important question, and I believe it's something that it's about time we have real, honest, and open, and trusted, and safe dialogue around these type of important questions. So thank you for bringing it up, and hopefully that's a bit helpful.
Yeah. Before I give the microphone to Mayo, I sense there is some questions from the all like fellow wisdom keepers, as we call them here in the communion or in community. So please open up your microphone if you have a question for on this topic.
I would like to ask a question. Hello, Adam. I'm Angelique. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So I'm very curious what you define as the darkness, because me personally, I think there is things that we unconsciously keep in the dark, because if we bring them to the light, we're afraid we will be rejected, or we will experience our separateness. But I think the term darkness creates such fear and such heaviness around an area that should actually be in the light. Unless you have another concept of darkness, then please enlighten me about your darkness.
Yeah, well, thank you for the great, hacking into darkness a little bit more. And I do appreciate your perspective and how you're holding it. And I say yes to you and how you are holding that, because I think the idea, obviously in the dualistic realm, we look at things in this kind of contrasting way.
Yeah.
Just obviously it's the way it is, and it's the way our lens, that lens experiences things. So let's take a moment, because we're talking about lens of light and dark, bringing illumination into the recesses of places that are unconscious and not seen and not known.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
In the shamanic traditions, we refer to it simply as the underworld. Of course, we're the illuminate beings. We're the ones who are conscious and sentient and coming into the places through our courage and a willingness and intention to experience things that seemingly are dark and unknown. And if we flip over to the other side, and I've been speaking to this in some of the conversations that I've been having about this quantum coin. So if on one side of the coin, we have the duality and the idea of light and darkness, and as it relates to this conversation, what do we have over here? And the piece in the quantum is simply, it's not a dualistic experience. It's a unified field. It's not experienced or seen or felt in any manner whatsoever, because it's just a unified field. It just is. And, you know, early on in my exploration of this idea of light and dark, fear and love, form and formless, because we have this extraordinary capability and this incredible machine to shift our energetic, to rewire our neurology and our patterns, because we can rewrite our software. There's a remarkable ability to engage and experience the dualistic nature, but also how the unified field, the whole, is engaging with the dualistic place into the, you know, some would say non-duality, for lack of a better word. But the journey into this of sharing into the unified field, or from the unified field, and I'm sure Jude, dear sister Jude, spoke of the unitive narrative, and, you know, our collective work in the unitive narrative, but and her science and all that she's doing around the unitive field is a place that we can hold the whole piece and share into the seemingly places that are not seen or dark in our lives. So we can hold the light and we can share into that place, and into that place when it creates an illumination. So I'm not quite sure exactly of your question and inquiry, but hopefully looking at the light and the dark from the context of separation of our ego and using that as a basis of discussion, it's an invitation for us to also be in the greater picture of the quantum, which is there is no duality. There's only the presence of light.
Yeah.
And in this presence of light, we are a frequency and a vibration that is emanating through us as clear vessels of that light. And of course, it's expressed as love in our lives. And to be able to be in the presence of that, and to share in the presence of a duality, because we're in duality. Course in Miracles speaks to this intently, and in my initial teachings and work around this piece of around dark and light really is emerged from A Course in Miracles on a multitude of levels. But to keep it as simple as possible, A Course in Miracles has different frequencies. And the one frequency is the duality. The other frequency is the unified field, the love. And those two frequencies, as shared in that body of work, it's not for everybody, but in that body of work, toggles between the two frequencies. It's held by the presence of love. So ultimately, the journey of us into the dark is necessary, because ultimately it's a journey into nothing other than a place of wholeness, oneness, and the unified field.
It's
Hopefully that's helpful.
well, what I get from you, because we could talk for hours. I will not do that because you're here with other people too. But the thing is, what I get from you is actually the death of ego. That's the darkness. Because if you really get that that's not who you are, that's quite threatening. And of course, ego can't die, because I need an ego to do the dishes and ride my car and everything. But the whole illusion of I am Angelique van Hest, that is actually, that feels very dark the moment I get that that's not who I am, because it's everything I identify with. And I even believe, for me, there is no separation between duality and non-duality. It's one field. And even I do not have a free will or a free choice. I'm just as a flower opening in the sunlight. There's no say in the matter whatsoever. So I would also be very curious, what is your perspective about that? But I don't know if this is the right place to talk about that. But thank you very much for your answer.
Well, thank you for the question, and I'll just touch on that briefly so we have some more time for whatever else is coming in for everybody.
Yes.
And because you did mention a few different things, you know, this idea of ego is a big is a bigger discussion.
Yeah.
In its own right, but you know, ultimately the unification of separation into a return to the oneness of our being. It's to me, it's often guided, of course, by externals.
Yeah.
And you know, and there's a trap in that place. But for me as a man, the experience has really come through. Well, I don't have 3 daughters and 7 granddaughters for no reason, folks. The wisdom of the feminine is instrumental and key here, and it was for my personal journey into integral oneness. So I went through this experience, this human journey into the unified and integral field through a deep inner exploration of both what is it to be a man in my own masculine, but the integral piece was ultimately in the feminine. And, you know, I recently did a trek in the Holy Mountains just in June to the Holy Mountain of Solkantai, the mountain of the feminine. And this comes on the heels of a journey in 2006 to the mountain of the masculine, Singate, and ultimately waiting to be initiated and to be called to come back to the greater mountain of the feminine, Solkantai. And I won't go off in that, but the integral piece is, for me, came through a human experience, through engaging in deep inner wisdom and knowledge, but ultimately living it out in the territory of life. So that is a part of my journey of integration of duality and non-duality into whole being, wholeness. I speak very much into the divine genius about this under divine being. I speak about free will, but ultimately free will only exists, to your point, in the form, because it's divine will. It's a complete surrender of free will and allowing ourselves to be untethered into the quantum and to synchronize with the greater field. Extraordinary capabilities. Every human has this. It just continues to blow my mind often about the synchronization and the alignment. Some would say this is a law of attraction. Some would say it's spiritual laws. You know, whatever it all is, it's an attunement of joy, of magic, of bliss, of certainty, of changelessness. The world is so changing. Change is the only constant. Well, no, that's true over here in this form of duality. But in the whole of it, it's also changeless. And that's the invitation, the integration, however you may do that. I hold you all in that way. And I'm here to certainly explore more of these big questions.
Thank you.
Mayo, dear friend.
Hello, everyone. And Adam, thank you so much for being alive, first of all, and for sharing your transformation with all of us. Amazing questions regarding this duality. And Boz had mentioned this idea that you have between a sword, a bleeding edge, which is something that I want to touch on in a second.
Yeah.
In which you mentioned that we can cut away aspects that are no longer true for ourselves, that are obsolete. And in this process of cutting out aspects that are no longer true for ourselves, we become a co-creator of our own consciousness reality, which is emerging. You talk about alchemy as well in your writings, and how alchemy can bring us into this redesign through the genius. My question to you is regarding intuition. does intuition fall at the apex of having our 5 sensories, the ego, the dualistic, and the genius? Is the intuition the sword itself?
Yeah, that's a wonderful inquiry, and I'm inspired to do something very spontaneously here, if it's okay.
Fantastic.
It's going to just take me 1 second because I have to go get it. Can you just pause for 1 second with that good question, and I'll go do it.
Small quiz of guessing what's coming now. So fingers or hands for a samurai sword. I keep my hand on.
Yeah.
Maybe I can also add something from a transpersonal level, or from my training as a transpersonal psychologist, from the work of Stanislav Grof. If you never heard of him, I would invite you to also get known his work. He's on the YouTube. There are several lectures. But there is some, I would say, a law in transpersonal psychology, especially with trance states with psychedelics. And I know I saw some colleagues from my training as well here as well tonight. So maybe we can have a short dialogue on this. But there is this law, like entering the divine or the non-dual state, as Adam already mentioned. There is this law, like you have to go through the death rebirth state, and the death rebirth is like a transit from the darker place, or the traumas, the fears, the old pains which are encountered in your biographical life, but could also be in a collective level from consciousness, like the wars in Germany. The wars are happening now. And this is the dual experience we all encounter. And this is important for us also to remember who we really are. And this death rebirth state is such a law in transpersonal psychology that we have to acknowledge it's there. And that's also where we are afraid for as humans, to also encounter these states of pain, trauma, collective trauma, etc. So hopefully it elaborates on what we already discussed, as it is a phenomenon which is alive in the consciousness field or in the divine, to remember the light and to overcome our shadows. So maybe it adds up, and we're still waiting for Adam to come.
Well,
yeah,
I'm
Adam,
back.
sorry, we had a small...
Yeah, no worries, and thank you for that. That's a very interesting inquiry of what you just shared, and I'd love to hang out and hear what you have more to say on that. So so maybe we can come back to that, or I can hang out with you all to do that. I would enjoy it very much. In terms of transformation, collective trauma, but also it's time to move through some of these places and not get stuck in our own sense of just pure, pain and healing. We get to do that, but there's important work, I believe, to do. And hence being here with you all, Wisdom Keepers, is inspired me to think about that work and to think about Carlos's question, because what I went to get is the sword, and the power of the sword as a transformational tool, but also as a place of discernment, to your question. And if you think about the sword, and it's something that we work with often in our shamanic training and some of our teachings, and it's very steeped in the Mayan cosmology, because they utilize the mirror. And the sword is the mirror of life that is reflecting a duality and reflecting this experience that we see in our relationships and our work and each other. But ultimately, where does our discernment come in? Where does our intuition flow in? How do we come to a place of center where we can be in this place of our duality and non-duality? So to your question, Carlos, I lean into this analogy of the sword and the ability to really engage in the highest levels of discernment. So much noise as we were talking about. And of course, the sword has two edges. One of them cuts through the world and the denseness of the domain, the world of form. The other one can cut through our own being. And just like the surgeon uses the scalpel to engage in the most intricate operations, we too are here to engage in the most intricate operations of our own personal inner psychology, but to also ultimately come to the world. How are we going to grow corn with this in the world? Because we're not growing corn and living it and being it and really transforming the world, and we're not really doing much. But the idea of that sword and using that as a level of discernment is essential. And to your point, Carlos, it's what I am finding is, of course, a continuing practice is something quite what I think is fascinating about the human capacity. And I'll share it with you all, and you'll decide for yourselves, of course. But ultimately, in that 5 sensory nature, we're operating at a very, what I would consider a very low level of our capacity. It's kind of like, well, that gets us here, but it doesn't take us to where we're going, both individually and collectively. That piece of our puzzle is a very faded life and a very faded existence, of which we all engaging in the fate of our being. But ultimately, are we not people of destiny? Aren't we asking ourselves, how is it that I can serve in a greater way to fulfill my own heart and my own true mission in life? Early on, we'd always ask us, well, why am I here? And who am I? And, these type of things. And ultimately, it's the moment has come. The moment is very much arrived for us to be moving through the transformational field, the death and rebirth field, to be moving through the old modalities of healing and teaching and psychedelics. They're all part of it. And what I'm finding with my students and people in conversations and writings is that ultimately, if we're not holding a greater context of the quantum, the whole field, then ultimately we can go around and around at a very low level of vibration of our own evolution. So bringing in the discernment from the 5 sensory piece is the information to a greater attunement of your own inner eyes, your inner ears, heart eyes, heart ears, soul, place of just knowing, of certainty. And of course, the invitation is trust. Do I trust myself enough? Do I love myself enough? Am I responsible as a human being enough to show up, to be fully present and embrace the totality of who I am from a place of feeling, a place of that inner EQ, that emotionally intelligent piece? inevitably, I'm finding time and time again that we're in this place of consistently analytical, linear, masculine place. It has its presence and its purpose, yet at the expense of what? Of the very humanity of who we are. To come back into the wholeness, the totality. And for me, as I shared, it was coming back into integral being, masculine, feminine. And ultimately coming into that place that, my God, all I was doing is exercising my left brain and linear, rational, masculine piece, and and narcissism, so prevalent in my life, to really coming into this holistic piece and the processes associated with that. And I speak to that in the Divine Genius, very personal story, but it also speaks to the unlearning curve. You see, I subscribe to a transcendent state that's beyond the separate idea of ego into a place of movement into what already exists. That is just an unlearning. If it already exists, there's nothing for you to acquire. And I will share this because I've been sharing it immensely, is that it's all been given. What if I said to each of you, or something to consider, that you have been given everything that there is to be given. Within you contains the whole. Within you is your genius. Within you is your own uniqueness and individuality. Within you, it has been given to share your mission. There are many, 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 many people waiting for each of us. Many. And in that is already contained in here. So the discernment piece says, I'm feeling the indelible nature of the whole. It enlivens me and inspires me to be in the presence of love, of life, of sharing, and all the beautiful things about being human. So I get inspired and enlivened by that. And that inner discernment comes through that place of that sword that is knowing that as we move through this thickness and this density, that we are held, that we are whole, that we are complete, and we are certainly, most certainly one. So just a few ideas of coming into discernment, working the sword, utilizing the mirror of our lives to allow us to catapult ourselves, to alchemize our being, to do so in a quickened way, to quicken ourselves into the quantumness, the quantum being that's already present. Just a couple thoughts.
Yeah. Mayo, does that answer your question?
I think it answers most of the questions. And the last item that you touched on was alchemy in regards to tapping into the field of our energy. Can you quickly expand on that? Because there is, I believe that it kind of capstones this important essence of the sword, and also what you've mentioned before of mastering our intuition. What does alchemy mean to you, and how do we tap into our own alchemy?
Well, the high arts, which is specifically to, both the transcendent beings as well as the shamans, the men and women, some at some point in time where people refer to them as witches and all these kind of things, whatever it is, that's been around for the millennium, they were practitioners of high arts, and high art in this case is the alchemy of our being. You've heard the cliche so many times, turning lead into gold. One of the most wonderful books I read very early in my life was The Alchemist, as many of you have read. And so ultimately, the journey of sharing the embodiment of your own alchemy is the power that is something that I invite all of you and everybody to really reclaim that power. It's not the guru, as you know, because you're the guru. It's not the doctor that we necessarily go to, although they serve a great purpose. It's ourselves as alchemists to be able to be the magic, the medicine of who we are. And the alchemist knows that it's becomes a masterful experience as we toggle between both the physical and the non-physical world. Because ultimately the human capacity, while it's extraordinary, is merely a vehicle, an expression of that which is the greatest extraordinary thing of all, which I refer to as the divine genius, which I personally believe is the quantum field. Energetic, vibrational. How do I want to engage as an alchemist in the vibrancy and richness of the field and all that it is? And how do we work with our science and our work with our biology and physiology and psychology and our ecology? How do we bring that all together here in the crucible, the alchemist crucible of your life as we hold this? How are we holding that? And how are we moving pieces around that don't serve us, letting go of these pieces? How are we doing this? And that's the beauty of your own unique quest. So hopefully that gets us a little closer to this idea of alchemy without getting into really too granular today.
Thank you.
Big topics are already touched, and I sense and also saw a hand of one of our fellow wisdom keepers. Please, if you have your question or your feelings, sharings, please open your microphone.
Yeah, I would like to share something, and maybe a question will come out of it, I'm not sure. My name is Marike. Thank you, Adam. What I have been feeling for the last couple of weeks is that it's actually not the consciousness which needs to go to a higher vibration, because that is not possible, but because the consciousness is. And everybody is speaking about frequency, going higher in frequency, your vibration needs to go up. We need to meditate, we need to be in a high frequency. And what I feel is the ego talking. Because if you think that your consciousness can go into a higher state, then it suggests that you're not already perfect, like you're telling. We have it all in us. So what I feel is that our bodies, every body, our physical bodies are the ones that are automatically going into a higher frequency, like Mother Earth, Gaia, is also bringing her body into a higher frequency, not her consciousness, because that's also that's us, but her body. And for me, it feels like that we are the alchemists, or we can be the alchemists by just feeling into our bodies, showing up to what is going on in our bodies, feelings, emotions, sensations, and just letting it flow. And that's the only thing that we need to do. But that's my feeling, and I'm very curious what you and all the other wisdom keepers here think about it, or feel about it.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for that. And feeling in that body place and coming into that more emotional awareness, it must be embodied. Otherwise we're not growing corn with anything. And what I'm finding and experiencing, you can certainly check out our dear brother and friend, Dr. Bruce Lipton's work around, epigenetics and how we're engaging in our biological nature of transformation. And one of the things, that our scientists are now showing very clearly is we've reached a punctuated point of evolution where the rate of change is happening in a very small, dramatic period of time. We've seen this before with extinction, previous 5 extinction periods. And so it's the measurement of that is done in our ecology. So the measurement is looking at data as it relates to biodiversity, for example, loss of forest, sea level, these kind of things that we're measuring, rates of change in our ecology. But the same is applicable to that rate of change in our own biology. And so, very early on in my shamanic training, it was, of course, posed, taken with the question, can you get out of this lifetime alive? And then coming into a deep integral study with A Course in Miracles, it became about, really the piece of the integral piece of the physicality and the spiritual or the conscious realm. And how is our own biological nature evolving? And it's evolving far faster in many ways than I think we're even aware of, or at least it's being invited to be regenerated, to regenerate like much of Mother Nature regenerates. So I believe and feel from my own personal experience that regenerative nature of body is well underway. And the catch here is, the real secret to this is to know that we're not bodies. We are having this bodily thing and experience, but the place of identification with it is one that ultimately must be transcended into the whole of the experience, the human experience. And we're quantum beings, having this spiritual experience in this body. I kind of took the spiritual beings kind of thing and said, no, wait a second, there's a bigger picture here. And it's true, there is a bigger picture here. And I always had a great conundrum in my study of A Course in Miracles, and trying to really grasp what it means that you need do nothing. You need do nothing. And of course, it doesn't mean not doing nothing in the world. It means returning to that place of oneness through whatever transformational journey gets us back to the choice point of the oneness, because we all have the separation. We all have the ability to choose the place of our oneness, but ultimately we must have context by knowing that the other choice is all about love and wholeness and completion. The vehicle holds us and guides us there. The alchemist knows that it's the technologist that rewrites the human software through our own learning, through our own healing, through our own death, through our own regenerative nature. But ultimately, now we're engaging in the totality of who we are. That period of time is fully present, fully available, and it's asking of humanity to go quantum. And if that's not your choice, that's fine. But those that are not making that choice, there'll be very profound, outcomes, and they'll be for all of us. It's just a choice.
I'd like to add something, because one thing is triggering me, which I like we're all quantum beings. That's Rika, you were also at the Heal from the Heart retreat for doctors, in which we learn to work with energy medicine. And there we invited also William Bankston. I don't know if you know him, Adam. He's one of the leading guys in energy medicine, working with mice models, curing cancer just by cycling with positive thoughts. And one thing he said was not like on a scientific basis, but he said, one thing I know, it's about resonance bonding. It's about attuning to the same resonance of the quantum field, in which there is a possibility where you can have this interrelation with it, or you're already interrelated, but it can have a biological effect, an effect on the matter aspect of our bodies. So I really resonate, like, as you said, trusting or doing nothing is a state of resonance bonding, instead of fear, controlling, perfectionism, and etc. It's like you're getting out of the resonance. And I think that's the connection also with the work of Bruce Lipton, where we can have more insights in the future on a medical level.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just an exciting inquiry and place to be curious about, and to know that we just really don't know much, and in that regard. Hello. Hold on, please. I'm going to need to just take a quick break. I have an urgent call here that I must. Please forgive me. I'll be right back.
Consciousness is calling.
Gives us a moment to attune also with the rest of the group which is attending. Maybe there is emotions coming up or feeling sharing. So before we go back to Adam, I would like to give some space for it. So if anyone, like also Marika did, so I feel this, I have this understanding, how does it work in your field, in your work, Adam? So maybe we can attune to it now.
Bas, I couldn't hear the music and the words during the meditation, and I found out that some others also didn't. So I would really like to hear what you were sharing, not now, of course, but maybe you can send that in a link or something. I don't know.
Oh, that's no, it's good you mentioned, because I wasn't aware of that.
Was I the only one? No, okay.
Okay, so everyone didn't hear the meditation, or okay.
No, I didn't hear it either.
Okay,
I
that's a pity, but what I shall do with all the subscribers, I will add a meditation which I did, and then send it as a group meditation or as a meditation you can integrate. But it was a meditation or a visualization about the things and the topics we already spoke, or Adam spoke about, is that we are much bigger than we are from the ancestral line, and we are all connected from this ancestral line on the positive and on the negative aspects of this ancestral line, and to remember where we're coming from and where we will build on, and the efforts our ancestral line did for us where we are now as humans, but you as an offspring of this ancestral was the main topic of this guided meditation. So what I will do, I will take some time to record this meditation. It's a short one, but hopefully you heard the music with the voice of Tina Turner. to look and to listen and to feel beyond. And I don't know if you heard that as an audience.
No.
No.
Mm.
Okay.
No. No.
Okay. Yeah, I tried it yesterday and it was working, but now, okay, you'll see, we're learning and growing. So Adam, you're back. You had this important moment for a phone call. So happy you have you back.
Well, thank you, everyone. And my beloved was calling me, and she's not feeling so well. So we sharing love and care for her, and so thank you for allowing me those moments. But I'm back, and it's okay, and it's good, and I'm here with you all, and can stay a little bit more if you like.
Adam, thank you so much, and take care there, and we stay in touch and connection, and send you love from this space.
Indeed. Well, if you want, I can stay, as I said, but if you're wrapping up, then we can say goodbyes now and be in that place of, well, that place that can never be left.
Thank you. So what I would like to do, Mayo, I think we touched a lot of things during the story of Adam, the wisdom insights, the wisdom teachings. So I would like to create a place for us as all fellow wisdom keepers, just to tune for 1 or 2 minutes, to go inside and to just feel what's just happened in your system when you hear this story, when you hear the narratives, when you hear the wisdoms, when you hear the dualities, when you hear the non-dualities. And then we're gonna use a whiteboard for the Zoom possibilities, to have this moment where you can add your insights, your feelings, your whatever comes up. So I would like to give you a moment of 2 minutes to attune what's happening in your consciousness now. So I invite you to step out of your attunement, and if you see the whiteboard, you can use on the left side, you can use text, you can use a marker, you can use circles, you can use everything you like, just to have an integrated notification of what you experienced during this Wisdom Keepers gathering with us all and with Adam C. In particular. In the chat, there were some stars shared, so they're on this whiteboard as well. Patricia, we just added to the whiteboard. If someone likes to add something else or wants to share something, feel free to do so. And if you don't know how the whiteboard exactly works, for me it's quite, yeah, here is a text coming. For Patricia, who doesn't see the whiteboard because she's on a telephone, I will read a few things which are on the whiteboard. There's a big heart on the left. There's a number 1. I don't know where it stands for, but it doesn't matter. Silence and unfolding, and just be. And from my writing as a child, it's more easy than the mind makes of it. And a beautiful text, which I think comes from one of our colleagues of the Groffian training. Gratitude for your session. I love the fluidity and authenticity. Thank you for opening the space for the understanding that we are God. Thanks for the opening, the space for bringing psychedelics into the middle of society as a modality to discover our shadows and for finding loving peace with them. I missed the meditation and I used the 2 minutes ending to brush my teeth. I felt your presence so very much while doing it. Thank you. And we end this whiteboard by embrace and closing it down. Thank you for your sharing. That brings us back as the beginning, as a shared collective or a community, just allowing yourself to join this gathering from a deeper sense, maybe where you want to commune and to know like-minded people. I would like to give also the word to Mayo to maybe have a short inquiry on this session, and we do a circle of sharings, and then we're gonna end this beautiful gathering as I experienced from this side.
Again, thank you so much for being here and for being alive. There is an important axiom in the field of communication, and it goes like this: you cannot not communicate. So again, you cannot not communicate. We are beings, and although we talked about the body and the mind and the dualistic side of who we are and the vibrational, we live in this world and we breathe this air, and we share ideas with those around us and with the environment, and we are always sending and receiving information. So if we are aware and conscious that we're always present in this expansion and contraction, then why not shift this axiom into you cannot not love? In essence, we are everything that love has created in our essence as human beings. So why not be love for ourselves, for the planet, for everything that we are? And today, based on everything that Adam shared and such deep wisdom, I want to empower everyone to think about these two axioms, to live with this notion, this taste in your being that you are love and that you are always eminent love. So be that. Thank you so much for being here, guys. And thank you so much, Adam, for taking the time and for showering us with all such wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. So if everyone from this circle wants to communicate now, feel free to do so. Open your microphone. Maybe just share one word to go back to your own lives and to spread your love, which Mayo beautifully said again, is such an easy, practical thing to do in your closest surroundings, but also in the world. So if someone wants to communicate something, we take our times for this.
Yes, thank you, Bas.
Mm-hmm. Thank you all. Thank you all for your contribution, your presence, and your light. And we invite you for our next Wisdom Keepers on Wednesday, 25th of January. We will share this invitation again via our social channels. And have a beautiful, loving, and beautiful Christmas with your dearest friends, loving people. And thank you all for your being at this moment on Earth of this Wisdom Keepers gathering with Adam C. Hall. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bas.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you all.